my life has completely changed and done a 180. A big reason for that change has been because of this job.
We have a special guest right here, Caitlin.
Yes.
Our social media director. You get on camera, young lady.
Don't worry about Kevin's.
I'm going to sit on camera, get behind the mic. Let's see what happens. Thank you.
Okay.
Caitlin, thank you very much.
Caitlin, thank you very much.
Caitlin, will you walk in front of the camera for a second? So she just got some highlights. Well done. Thank you. Now get off!
Oh, my God.
Why don't you introduce yourself and let everyone know who you are?
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin Tinwakio and I'm the social media director.
And how did you get part of this team? It's a funny story, isn't it?
Yeah. So, how did I get this job of being the social media director for the We're Here to Help podcast team? It is a funny story in that basically, I'll start from the beginning. Before I got the job, I was in such a big, depressive episode. I was crying. I was getting so many job rejections. I just felt so, I don't know, it just felt like nothing was going right for me. I was so frustrated because for me, I have done a career change in the sense that my degree is in medicine and public health. Well, the title is human biology and society with a concentration in medicine and public health because I originally wanted to be a doctor. And this was my first big girl full-time job after graduating from college. I was worried it was like a fluke that I had landed this job and now I was having trouble finding any other job. I knew it in my heart that I had what it took. I knew that I was smart and I knew that I was hardworking and I could do probably any job that I wanted to do, but I wanted to be doing marketing. Also, I just didn't always have proof of it, I didn't start doing marketing until later on. I don't know, it just felt hard to say this is what I can do. And then I got this job. So how did I get this job of being the social media director for the We're Here to Help podcast team? It is a funny story in that basically I was scrolling on TikTok and I saw that someone had recommended the podcast. But for me, I have never been a podcast girl. I've always tried, but I feel like the way that podcasts have been recommended for me are a lot of wellness and improving yourself. And then I saw this video where this girl was saying Nick Miller has a podcast and I've watched New Girl. She described it and she was saying how funny it was and I was like, wait, podcasts can be like that? Let me listen to it. So I did and I just became obsessed. I really liked it and that was the first time I liked a podcast like that enough for me to stick with it. I had been listening to pretty much everywhere. Everything I was doing, it was a nice new fun little obsession. When you're going through it, just having something to look forward to helps you kind of push through. Then there was an episode, it's the fake Jake saga. This guy was a Jake Johnson lookalike and he pretended to be Jake. And so they interviewed the girl and the guy who met Jake at the bar, who they call fake Jake now. They explain the story. That fake Jake, they were able to reach out to him and they got him on the show. They were all surprised by how much he does look like him. I'm just listening to the podcast, right? And so when I heard that he was on the show, I was like, let me see what this guy looks like. I gotta see if it's real. Does he really look like Jake Johnson? And so I went to go look and I was just kind of shocked because this guy really does look like Jake. But I looked at their page and they maybe had 2, 3, maybe 4 posts. And I was like, this is such a good podcast that I know it could blow up. I know it could do really well. Also, I can just tell that because there were so few posts and the post that was up of the fake Jake one that I was looking at, it just looked like someone put it on the Instagram story editor, put the text there and then saved it and made it as a post. And I was like, oh, they probably just don't have a social media person. So I ended up reaching out. Something just came over me. I sat down and wrote out the email. I don't think I even got up for that whole, it took me an hour to write that email because I was just I want it to be really good because I've never reached out to somebody before. Yeah, and then I just clicked send. I really didn't think anything of it because I I don't really have anything to lose with this. I can just send it and if they reply, they reply, and if they don't, then they don't. Actually, maybe I can read the email. This was sent September 28, 2023, and this email changed my life. Hello, Jake, Gareth, and or Kevin. My name is Caitlin, and I'm a huge fan of the We're Here to Help podcast. I had heard about it on TikTok this past week, and I have since binged every single episode. It's helped me to stay awake during my 1.5-hour commute from work. It's helped me to feel less nervous about going on my first solo date since I wouldn't feel alone. It's to the point where I was on a call with my friends during my walk and I thought to myself, hey, this is just like a podcast in real life, until I realized that's just what talking is. As I was listening to today's podcast, I knew I had to see this fake Jake. I jumped over to your Instagram and I saw it was only the 2 posts so far, which makes sense since it had just been launched. As such, I was wondering if you were in the market for a social media manager. I know I became a loyal fan because of hearing about it through social media and how you are both always saying to share the podcast with your friends. What better way to do so than through repurposing your current podcast content and making it shareable across platforms? I have some ideas brewing of how to achieve this, and it would be such a privilege for me to share them with you. I have 4+ years of social media management through part-time jobs, my current full-time job, and my own personal platforms. Here's my portfolio. If you're interested in discussing this further, I'd love to hop on a brief call to explore your specific needs and objectives in more detail. Your podcast is only going to continue to grow as word gets out about it, and I would love to be part of this journey in any way I can. Warmly, Caitlin Tenwakio. P.S. Thanks for reading this far. I meant to send this in a separate email, but I just wanted to let you know that I, like one of your callers, had also faked an Australian accent at work. It wasn't for a guy in a hat at a cafe though. It was for my 90 freshman residents when I worked as a resident assistant at UCLA. I did give them trust issues when I dropped it after getting bored with a bit after 5 days, but at least we'll always have this funny story. Hope this story made you smile at the very least, because that would be a win in my book. Have a wonderful rest of your night. And then I got an email back on the Sunday night. We'd love to chat. What's your availability? And I just started screaming because I had I didn't think they were gonna respond. Then I sent over my availability and I went onto the call and I'm internally freaking out, but I'm trying to be as calm as possible. They only asked questions for a good maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 at the most. Then they were just yeah, sure, you're on. And I was like, what? And they're yeah, this is what we're thinking. Here are the passwords for everything. And I was like, that's it? They were like, we trust you. We're not gonna have to prove anything. Just literally go for it. You know more than we do. Do what you want to do. And I was shocked. For me, it's because I have been going through interviews for full-time jobs previously, and it's a lot more. There are a lot more rounds. It's a lot more thorough. But then they were just kind of yep, we like you. We're gonna go for it. To kind of go to that, and this for me was huge. I was so excited, and this was such a huge opportunity. When it comes to social media with corporate, there's so many processes and approvals that need to happen. But with this one, it was just this feels bigger and way less needs to happen in order for me to do what I want to be doing. It's fully in my hands, and I was so excited about it. In that time, that was back in October. I started with around 6,000 followers to 10K in a week of me being there, and I was I'm proving to myself that I know what I can do and I know what I'm doing. I knew it in my heart that I had what it took. I just didn't always have proof of it, Now we are over 100,000 followers in about 4 months, and it has just been so nuts. The reason I say this is the job market sucks. I wouldn't tie your abilities and your skills to any acceptances or rejections. It'd be so funny. I would literally be getting emails from Jake, Gareth, and Kevin of saying oh my gosh, you're amazing, you're doing so good. And I'd see it for myself too, oh my gosh, I'm growing this amount. The email right after it would be, thank you, we've seen your application and we are going to move forward with another candidate. Your life can really change in a second, and all it takes is you to just put yourself out there, because if I reject myself, my life could have been totally different right now. You really don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be perfectly qualified. You don't have to hit every single qualification. I know that there are probably social media managers and directors who have way more experience than I do, but they didn't get the role because they didn't go for it. They didn't email. If you are feeling lost and struggling in your 20s, or you're just graduated from college and you don't know what to do, I would say boldly go after the things that you want. You might not get all of them. I'm just warning, because I'm sure there are so many others that I've tried and just didn't get. But you really never know what that one yes of the thing that you're going after, what that can do for you. It only takes one yes. So just go for the things that you want and that make you happy, because since doing that, I'm telling you, I've been so much happier. I've gotten so many more job opportunities that I've had to start turning things down, which is so unfathomable to think about. Me back in July of 2023 would not believe the life that I'm living right now. I literally got invited to a movie premiere party, and I got to meet some of my favorite actors, people who inspired me. That's nuts. Just because I sent an email, you are definitely more qualified than you think you are. And if you don't go for it, someone else will. Go for the things that you want to be going for, because if you take yourself out, you are rejecting yourself before allowing others to reject you.